Have you ever had that feeling? That strange, nagging suspicion that the world around you isn't quite random, that the coincidences are a little too convenient, the chance encounters a little too perfect? For Klein Moretti, this wasn't just a feeling, it was a chilling certainty. In this video, we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most brilliantly crafted conspiracies in fantasy literature, the mastermind behind every coincidence in Tingen, and the terrifying artifact that turned the entire city into a scripted tragedy. This is the story of how Klein went from a pawn in someone else's game to the one anomaly that almost broke the board. So, who was pulling the strings? The answer is a man named Ince Zangwill. 3 years before the story began, he was a former archbishop of the Church of Evernight, a Sequence 5 gatekeeper who failed his promotion and was corrupted. He didn't just leave the church, he committed the ultimate theft. He escaped with sealed artifact 0-08, that appeared to be a simple, ordinary quill. But its power was anything but. This quill was a reality-warping plot device. It didn't predict the future. It wrote it. It could craft a narrative of events so plausible, so logically consistent, that people would unconsciously act out their parts, believing they were making their own choices. These manipulations manifested as what we, and Klein, saw as incredible coincidences. But why? What was Zangwill's goal? It was deceptively simple. He wanted to become a demigod. To advance from Sequence 5 to Sequence 4, he needed one key ingredient: Saint Selena's ashes, which were kept under heavy guard in the Tingen branch of the Nighthawks. In here Dunn Smith's drinking Kenley's blood after he died becomes important. He explained to Klein the law called Law of Beyonder Characteristics Indestructibility. The characteristics of a Beyonder is never destroyed or reduced. It's only passed from one carrier to the next. The captain said that a Beyonder that dies normally would leave behind a Beyonder characteristic equivalent to a potion that lacks the supplementary ingredients. In other words, as long as one knows the corresponding supplementary ingredients, they can advance using their remains. Selena as a saint, she was either Sequence 4 or Sequence 3. Her urn corresponds to one of the two sequence potions. Ince Zangwill, who was a former archbishop, definitely knew exactly which one she was, and he definitely knew the required supplementary ingredients. We also see a hint of Ince Zangwill's plan in one of the fragments of Roselle Gustav's diary, talking about how some pathways are interchangeable after Sequence 5, when before we were told that diverging from your chosen pathway would allow one to obtain strange, mysterious powers, but that person would definitely go insane and would never be able to advance. Because Ince Zangwill couldn't just storm the place to take the ashes, he used the quill to orchestrate a story so complex and chaotic that it would generate the perfect opportunity for him to swoop in and steal them. And if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe. Now let's continue. Through the novel, we get to see the actual words written by 0-08. Let's look at how it arranged the entire events. The first part of Zangwill's plot was simple: plant the Antigonus Notebook in Tingen. For this to happen, the notebook that was in possession of the secret order was accidentally sold as an ordinary ancient book. Affected by the calling of the Antigonus family's bloodline, the notebook secretly affects its owners, one after the other. After repeated changes in ownership, it came to Tingen City, falling into the hands of the members of the Aurora Order, Sirius Arapes and Hanas Vincent, who then, worried that the secret order would track them down, decided to sell it to Welch McGovern, a friend of the original Klein Moretti. Welch and a classmate of his asked the original Klein for help in deciphering the notebook, but they also were affected by it, ending with the life of Klein's classmates and him being the lucky survivor, just to under the notebook's influence send it to Ray Bieber's house. Everything was going according to plan, until something impossible happened. Klein Moretti was never supposed to survive. He should have committed suicide like his friends and triggered the Nighthawks' early investigation. But Klein lived. This is Klein's transmigration, an event so outside the system that the quill couldn't explain it. Klein's resurrection was a mistake in Zangwill's story, a character who slipped out of the author's control. But 0-08 adapted and Klein became the biggest wildcard Zangwill never expected. When Klein joined the Nighthawks, Zangwill had to redraft large portions of the plot. New opportunities appeared, so the quill altered reality around him. From there, the coincidences began to stack up. The kidnapping, The narrative placed some kidnappers in the apartment opposite Ray Bieber, so the Nighthawks would find clues to the notebook. It looked like it fails at first, until later, Klein, while dreaming, remembered going with the notebook there. Ray Bieber's irrational behavior. It kept Ray in Tingen, making him an easy target for the tracking sealed artifact 2-049. Anyone corrupted by Beyonder power behaves irrationally, but staying put was suicidal. It looks like someone wanted Ray's case to intersect with Klein's group. All of this for the most important move, Dunn's corruption. After defeating Ray Bieber, Dunn touched the notebook. This secretly contaminated him and worsened his mental state, making him vulnerable. Then we have Melissa's friend Selena learning forbidden incantations by chance. She glimpses Hannes Vincent's secret ritual, but waits until her birthday dinner to try it. This also led to a further attack at Dunn's mental stability. The Dongwa gives us watchers a visual clue of this when we see the captain coughing, after seeing the hanged man in episode 4. That event also put the Nighthawks on the path to investigate the Aurora Order, that led them to the Lanevus plot. The most crucial part of Zangwill's plan was Megose. She was an ordinary woman. Zangwill manipulated Lanevus to touch her with divine power, impregnating her, so what she was carrying was not a normal baby but an unborn monster, a living time bomb. Megose then descended into madness. Zangwill orchestrated the entire deity's son subplot with Lanevus and Megose, with the purpose of creating a massive crisis to further distract and weaken the Nighthawks. And throughout this, Klein kept disrupting the narrative. Using his modern knowledge and the power of the Grey Fog, he was becoming self-aware, a glitch in the Matrix, the character who started reading the author's notes. The divination for clues to the clown potion doesn't give him a formula directly. Instead, it shows him a series of images, all of which he realizes are interconnected through a single node, House Street and the Antigonus family's notebook. All the major events of Volume 1 stem from the circulation of this one artifact in this one small part of Tingen. The world isn't small. The plot is tightly wound around this single point. These chains of events are carefully pulled to guide certain individuals, like Klein, Ray Bieber, Selena, into specific positions to advance a larger, inscrutable plan. He almost destroyed Zangwill's whole carefully laid design when he told Captain Dunn about the acting method to better digest the potions, which temporarily reverses the contamination's effects and forces 0-08 to rewrite its plans into the events that led to Kenley's death at the hands of Miss Sharon and the captain eating his Beyonder characteristic, worsening his mental state again. And so, not even Klein could stop the true objective of all this series of coincidences. The climax was the ultimate convergence of all these plotted lines. The script forced a situation where Dunn Smith had to face Megose and the deity's son. By the end of the book, Dunn Smith was exhausted, grieving, mentally unstable, and unknowingly corrupted. 0-08 didn't force him to fail. It only needed to push a broken man one final step in the wrong direction. His fatal mistake, taking out Saint Selena's ashes, exposing them. The quill exploited his corrupted state to make this simple error. Zangwill needed Dunn to die and, in that moment, Dunn sacrificed himself. Exactly as intended. As Klein knelt over his captain's dying body, as Selena's ashes softened, Zangwill walked into the story he created, to retrieve Saint Selena's ashes, completing the materials for his ritual. And in the story that Ince Zangwill carved, Klein Moretti was not the hero. He was a disruptive side character who needed to be killed off, and whose death would conveniently cover up the theft. Then, after killing Klein, he disappeared into the night. Zangwill succeeded. He took the ashes, the Nighthawks were broken, he had performed his ritual to switch from Sequence 5 of the Death Sequence pathway, Gatekeeper, to Sequence 4 of the Evernight pathway, Nightwatcher, becoming a demigod, and every loose end were tied. The final line of the script reads, "Tingen's story ends here." But in his arrogance, he made a critical mistake. The quill underestimated Klein again, and he resurrected in the mysterious space of the Grey Fog, which seems to be beyond normal interference, something the quill could neither predict nor control. This is something that Zangwill could never have imagined, a character who refuses to follow the narrative. So, what does this all mean? Klein, a modern man with a scientific mindset, understands probability. The sheer volume of coincidences surrounding him in the tiny city of Tingen, especially after he becomes a Beyonder, defies all logical odds. He correctly deduces that he is not the protagonist of a story where everything revolves around him, but rather a pawn on a chessboard, with invisible hands guiding events. Klein's paranoia was not only justified, it was an understatement. He was living inside a novel being written in real time by a hostile author. The puppet on a string metaphor wasn't just a feeling, it was the literal truth. This conspiracy does more than just provide a villain for Volume 1. It establishes the core theme of Klein's entire journey, the struggle for autonomy in a world where fate can be manipulated by higher powers. He may have lost this first battle, and in Zangwill's story, he was killed. But as we know, Klein's tale is far from over. He may have been a pawn in someone else's narrative, but his death was just the beginning of him learning the dangers of this new world. What did you think about Ince Zangwill's conspiracy? When did you first realize that the events in Tingen weren't random at all? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden layers of Lord of Mysteries, subscribe to the channel for more analyses of the novel, the Donghua, and the terrifying world hidden behind the gray fog.